Have you ever gone into your colony and thought that you've seen two queens? Well, let me talk a little bit about this. It's a really fascinating trait that happens in bee colonies, and because it's happening to queens, it's a queen event, and because it's a queen event, you need to know how to handle colonies that have multiple queens. When I did my PhD in South Africa years ago, I spent a lot of time working with observation hives. I put bees into observation hives, and routinely, I'd see colonies that would end up having two queens. I'd see a queen on one side of the comb and go around to the other side and see a queen over there. So I said to myself, well, multiple queens must be common in these African subspecies of honeybees. After all, I was there working with a hybrid of Apis mellifera-capensis and scutellata. I'm like, well, maybe this is a trait that African honeybees have. And so when I came back to the States, started keeping bees again, I would go through my colonies and I would find two queens in my nest with some regularity. And so over the years, I've told my team members, be on the lookout for two queens. If you ever see it, report it. I've tried to read the literature about it. I've discussed with folks about it. I've looked at it in my own colonies. And I'm now willing to say publicly on this video that it's fairly common for colonies to have two queens or multiple queens at some point throughout the year. I've seen it more than enough times to know that it's more than just an anecdote. So what's happening and how would I know? Well, most beekeepers wouldn't know. Why do I say that? Well, most beekeepers stop looking for a queen once they see the first queen. Right? Imagine you're working through your hive and you get to your third frame and you pull it up and you see a queen there. You put that frame back in the nest and you keep working the hive and you get to frame 8 and you pull it up and there's the queen again. What are you likely to say? I bet at some point in your beekeeping life you said, oh, the queen must have gotten off that first frame, run down the walls of the boxes and gotten onto this frame and I'm seeing her again. Or what about that time you picked up a frame and you saw the queen on it, then you flipped over the frame and you saw her there again. And you're like, wow, she must have just moved through a crack to the other side. Most people, after they see the queen once, if they're going through the hive and they see her again, they just automatically assume it's the same queen. You can know that if you clip or mark her, but if you don't clip or mark her, it's really hard to know that you're seeing the same queen. I would propose to you, instead of always seeing the same queen, you may in fact be seeing a second queen. If you look in the beekeeping books, some people have even hypothesized that colonies might favor a two-queen system, specifically in spring, to try to blow up their population, to grow exponentially, to take advantage of the resources available in the nest. Frankly, I don't think there's enough research on this topic, but I do want to talk just briefly about the likelihood of it being a problem. I'm kind of couching this little queen series under this idea of recognizing queen events. Well, you might have a situation in your colony at some point in the future where you clearly know you have multiple queens. What should you do about it? Nothing at all. Why do I say that? Well, I've seen two queen colonies many, many, many times in my decades of keeping bees. And early on in seeing it, what I would do is I would remove a queen. I would say, aha, this is the bigger of the two queens. I'm going to assume bigger's better. I'm going to take out the smaller of the two queens. And there, I've remedied the problem. And sometimes I chose poorly. How would a colony get to a two-queen system, and how would I know I've chosen poorly? Well, there are many things that could lead to this two-queen system that would dictate the fact that I chose poorly. Let me give you an example. How would a colony have two queens in the first place? Well, it's conceivably possible that the first queen's pheromone output just died or stopped. Maybe she's good, maybe she's laying, but maybe the bees don't know she's there because there's an issue with her pheromone production. So they start and produce a new queen that goes out and mates and comes back and starts laying, and no one in the nest recognized the existence of the second queen. Maybe that second queen is old and failing, so she's laying fewer eggs. When I go in and make that decision to remove the one in favor of the other, maybe I've chosen poorly. Now, maybe you've got two queens because the colony wanted to swarm and multiple queens emerged at the same time and both of them mated, and rather than fighting, they stayed in the nest. The mystery behind multiple queens in a colony remains just that. As noted, I've read some literature to suggest it may even be on purpose to grow that colony quickly. What I want to tell you now, though, is it's never been a problem that I've felt like I needed to remedy. Even in my early days when I was choosing one or the other, I just didn't feel like I was always making a wise decision. I didn't trust my decision because I didn't know which one was the better of the two queens. So I started leaving it alone. And what I found over the last couple of decades of recognizing this occurrence in bee colonies is that I might see two queens today. Usually it remedies itself in 4 to 6 weeks. What does that mean? It means in 4 to 6 weeks, I'll go into the colony and all of a sudden there'll just be one queen there. I don't think they swarmed. I don't think that second queen left with the swarm. I don't think they fought to the death. I think it just remedied itself in a way that was of no consequence to the colony strength and productivity and me. So when I see multiple queens in the nest, I do a quick assessment. Does everything look good? Are their eggs? Is the brood pattern good? Are the bees responding well? And then I just leave it alone and assume the bees know what they're doing. And I promise you, usually in 4 to 6, maybe 8 weeks, you won't have a two queen colony anymore, and you will not have even noticed that anything changed at all, and life is still good. If you ever see it, just let it happen, leave it alone, watch and wait what happens, and enjoy the fact that you finally have found that needle in a haystack and recognize that double queen or multiple queen colony. If you look for it carefully, you might even see it more often than you think.